I'm starting.
You want to my bookie it, don't you?
Yeah, but we do that. That's in the middle somewhere.
Oh.
JXT, do you still do your podcast? You were doing one at one point, right?
Yeah, I was. I tried to keep doing it when I was in the States, and I did. But since I come back, I've tried to change a lot of things, and then we went pretty much into lockdown probably a few months afterwards, so I haven't really been doing it. I sort of stopped it.
Us arrogant pricks in the States don't give a fuck. We don't give a shit about lockdown. No. We don't give a shit about anybody.
You guys are crazy.
I've been pretty much in my... See, this is the difference. Like, I'm over, I'm East Coast in Boston. Like, we're pretty much locked down still. Like, the bars are closed. You can't have events. You're out in Montana where fucking it's the Wild West, literally.
This is crazy, man. I can't leave my house for more than 5 kilometers, which is, I don't know how many miles. It's not far.
Yeah. But how many cases do you guys have?
We're having around 200 cases a day in my state.
Okay, that's what we had in Boston reported today. So
so we have Montana.
We're not allowed to leave our house, not even for work. We can only go to the shop for grocery items or the drugstore or the pharmacy. That's it. Can't go anywhere else. All the bars are closed. The gyms are closed. You can only exercise for an hour a day, and you can't drive to exercise. So you can't drive to a park because parks are closed. You can't do any sport, nothing.
Yeah.
Just so you know, there's people in the States over here that think this is a hoax. Like we shouldn't be in lockdown. Like we shouldn't. Like it's.
There's people here that are like that too. Don't worry.
Fuck.
All right. I'm gonna take us
everywhere.
Josh, are you good? You're like running all around.
Hey.
You all right?
I had to get this fucking shit first. Okay. Then
douche whistle.
I had to fucking get this shit first. Second. So yeah, I am. I'm ready to go.
All right. What's up, TIW Mafia? JP here. I got Josh with me, and we got somebody from the land down under.
That's it, all the way down here.
Beer. You guys drink your beer out of oil cans, don't you?
Oh, that's what they say we do. We just, to be fair, we'll drink them out of anything. I've drank a lot of beer out of my own shoes, so whatever works for the beer is good to me.
It's
the Jaystick.
It's not so much the taste; it's more when you put your shoe back on afterwards and it's all wet.
Yeah, that's uncomfortable, isn't it? This is the Jaystick JXT. Somebody that you've toured pretty much. I know you've toured the U.S. quite a bit. Obviously, Australia. You've been to Alaska wrestling.
Yes, as well. Yeah, I've tried to do as much as I can that I've been allowed to. If I could, I'd wrestle every day in every different country. But it's just, it's being down here. We're so far away from things, and it's one thing to physically go somewhere, and it's another thing to get a booking somewhere and be able to financially make it viable. So yeah, I've tried to make the most out of life and the opportunities that I can get.
No, but Australia, back in the day, Australia was like one of the huge territories.
Yeah, back in the 60s and 70s on a lot, we used to have the WCW Australia with Josh Barnett, and they used to have Andre, Big John Studd, San Martino, a lot of these guys, Snooker, they'd come out here because there was Kowalski, there was a huge territory out here.
Kowalski was a world champion out there for a little bit.
Yeah, we used to get Bruiser Brody come down too. We used to have on a Sunday afternoon. This was way before I was born, but on Sunday afternoons they would have wrestling every Sunday, and it was massive. And what happened was eventually the cricket took over the TV deal, and then wrestling died in Australia for a short time there. Yeah.
Is it like, what's the indie scene like there now? The independent wrestling scene.
The last sort of 5-6 years, it's really boomed. And a lot of the reason for that, not so much the talent, is I think it's more the talent's always been here. It's the promotions have sort of gotten on top of things, been able to market themselves better with having streaming online. So they've been able to grow more, because you see a lot of the Australian talent that's, especially in WWE, there's a lot of them. They're all guys that have been on the independents here in Australia for 10 years, and even with New Japan with Robbie Eagles, these guys have been in wrestling and putting on good quality matches in Australia for a long time. It's just getting it noticed. And being such a big country with a small population, it's hard to get the numbers into the door and then to spread the word. But yeah, it's picking up. around here. Other than right now, there's no wrestling, but it is doing a lot better in the last few years.
Now, you guys are on complete lockdown now, like we are in Boston, Montana, where there's no wrestling anyway. Josh can do whatever he wants, but still can't go to a wrestling show. So.
We don't give a shit out here. We do what we want, how we want.
No, you guys are crazy.
We're still socially responsible, but it's a state.
No, you're not. No, you're not. I've been watching Yellowstone. I've been watching Yellowstone.
Hey, don't fuck with the Bears. Don't fuck with the Bears.
Oh man, I was so scared of bears when I was in the States. I was, if I see a bear, I don't know what I'll do.
Well, where did you? Obviously, like Alaska. I know Massachusetts because I met you up here.
Yeah.
In New York, New Jersey, because I know you did Wrestle Pro.
Yeah.
How much of the states did you get to tour? Did you get to see a lot of it?
Yeah, I think I did 11 states. I've done 11 or 12 states total. I did a small tour in 2016. I did a 1 month trip where I was at OVW for a couple of weeks, and then I did a little bit of the Northeast, which is where I've ended up at WrestlePro. But then the most recent trip in 2019, I was living on Kevin Matthews' couch, who's one of the promoters at WrestlePro as well. And yeah, Kevin was great. So off Kevin's couch, I'd try and get bookings as much as I could, anywhere I could, and just travel wherever I could go. So yeah, a lot of the boys, a lot of people helped me out, and were like, "Oh, we've got a show over here. Do you want to come?" I'd reach out to promoters myself, and yeah, I tried to do as much of it as I can. Like you said, I went all the way up to Toronto. I went to Massachusetts. I went to Delaware, and I didn't even know what Delaware was until I was there. So yeah, I just tried to get out as much as I could, and yeah, just be true. That's same as the wrestling down here. Try and make things grow.
Yep. No, you have a tag partner. Or you were tagging up with another an Australian female for a little while, right?
Yeah, Shazza McKenzie.
Shazza is amazing. We love Shazza.
Awesome. Yeah, no, she's really cool. And she's in the same boat as me in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
We're in different states in Australia. We live in different states. They're about a 12-hour drive in between, so we're not close by any means. But we'd always be on the same shows locally here in Australia, and we're both in the same boat as we save our money from our real jobs, fly ourselves over to the United States on these big tours or trips, and just try to get as many bookings and get noticed as possible. And everything she's earned has just been from her own hard work. Of she's had matches at NXT, matches in AEW. She's done everything she can to get her name out there and push and get opportunities. So yeah, I think people don't understand how hard it is for coming from such a small country with not much of a recognition when it comes to knowing who our wrestlers are on the big stage. So yeah, I think the two of us having that in common helped, especially when we were here in the States at the same time. Getting bookings together was really cool.
Now, you say with not much recognition, but do you think it's a little easier now? Because I think the Iconics are Australian as well, right?
I guess
there's a lot of them.
That's the biggest thing I was going to say is, like, if you watch, and I guess that's how hard it hits too, JXT, is that it's like we had Shazza on here. It's almost been 2 years now when she was over here and doing the King of Trios. Yeah. And she's done EW as well. And, the difficult thing is like there's so much talent over there. Like even when NXT came over to Australia, well, I mean, that's been a good time now. But I mean, the hardest part is like even when you see the minute and a half promo of the Iconics on the WWE Network and you see Shazza there in the middle of that. I mean, it's a struggle. It's not an easy road. It's a struggle. And if you're not there and you're not what they need and it's not that time, then they'll absolutely let you know.
Yeah, it's until Emma or Tennille Dashwood signed on with WWE, I think maybe 2011 or 12. It was her and then Buddy Murphy not long after her. Until then, the only other Australian on a big name promotion was the front row Nathan Jones, if you can remember him.
Yes.
Right. So Nathan
was Australian.
Yeah, and wow. They did a tour of Australia, and he got homesick, and he quit on the tour and never went back. So I don't know if they put a black line through Australians and said no more, or there was for like almost 10 years, not a single Australian got a look in. And until Emma and Tennille got in there, and then Buddy Murphy, and then the Iconics are there, and then the ball got rolling. Now there's Shane Thorne and Brendan Vink, Mikey Nichols was there, Bronson Reed's on NXT tonight. So there's Yeah, they're now. So, but all those guys I just named, they were all working independents here in Australia for, like I said, the last 10 years. We've all been doing it. It's just no one sees it. Not enough people have noticed.
I met Mikey years ago one time because he did a show up here for a different company in New England. And he wrestled Fergal DeVitt for the NWA. It was part of the NWA title tournament.
Yep, yeah, and that's the same thing. Like Mikey and Shane they trained with those guys and over at that LA dojo, and they were just trying to get their name out there as much as they could. Same as like Shazza and me at this time. We're different generations, but it's the same thing. We've got these great wrestlers. It's just not enough people are watching our product in Australia, so for us to get the same opportunities, and it's almost burns you up inside to sit here. You know, I'm so far away from everything, and we're in lockdown, yet I watch all my friends in the States, like they're getting opportunities, which I'm so happy for. And I'm like, oh, if I could just have, 10% of the opportunities that they're getting, because these guys get to have, extra work every week, or they're having people watch their promotions or their shows, or there's enough buzz and enough eyes on their product that if you have a really good match, people start talking about it and it creates a buzz. Whereas down here, there's not enough of that. Like Australians, not many of them even use Twitter, let alone can generate buzz from a match here. So that's just trying to create something. Yeah. And that's one thing in lockdown I've been working on with another friend of mine, Philip. We run a wrestling school here and a wrestling promotion that we're trying to set things up. So when we get back, we can hopefully online start creating something that people can see, because the talent's here and it's showing, because the main companies are picking up Aussies left, right and center. But there's more of it here. We just want to be able to showcase it and show the world.
What I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to start a social media site, and I'm going to take the 2 middle T's out of Twitter.
There was the 2 middle T's.
Yeah, there's 2 middle T's in Twitter, you know.
What do you mean?
You say Twitter.
Is in the letters?
Yes.
Twitter?
Yeah, I'm going to say it'll be, that way there it'll be spelled how you guys say it. Everyone does it to me because I'm from Boston. They spell everything that has an R with an AH. So
I'll give you an example. JP, please say Sasha Banks.
No, because I want a Sasha Banks.
Sasha Banks. It's
Sasha. To me, that's Sasha. Sasha Banks. You say your A's differently.
We give JP a hard time because, especially being Irish, and especially in Massachusetts, and especially in Southie, like anything that ends in an A automatically gets changed to ER.
And everything that ends in an ER gets changed to a very hard A.
Yeah.
Yeah, your accent's strong, man. And that's one thing I noticed. But not just that. I found that when I was in the States, like saying things like people would not understand what I was saying. They just if people can understand you, you're winning. You're already ahead of me.
It's because we're arrogant pricks in the States, man. It really is.
I don't know. I think maybe you're just not used to hear, because all of our TV, we watch a lot of American TV and movies and actors and wrestling. So I'm used to hearing American accents, all the different kinds every day. Whereas how often do you hear an Australian accent on your TV or your iPhone?
One of the most run commercials here in the States was a stupid lizard with an Australian accent offering you 15% off or something.
Is that the Geico?
Yes.
I just seen that ad and I was like, that is the worst Australian accent I've ever seen. Doesn't even sound like an Aussie. I was watching and I'm like, he's a gecko, because we have them out here. They're called geckos. I'm like, is he meant to be because we wouldn't say Geico.
Right. It's the Geico gecko is what it is.
Yeah. But looking at even the way it said Geico, it'd be Geeko to us, like the way it's written. And I was listening to him speak. He doesn't even sound. I'm like, is he meant to be Australian? But you confirmed it, so he is.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what it's supposed to be.
Kevin Matthews always give me shit because I always call people Mark. I'm like, oh, look at this Mark, what a Mark. And he'd always say Mark. Because he would say it like you. He'd say Mark. And I would say Mark. And he'd go Mark. I'm with you on that one. Yeah, Mark.
It's a Mark.
It's a Mark. It's a Mark.
See, Mark. Mark. There we go.
Now, what's the difference? Is there much difference in the styles? I know, when you go from country to country, a lot of times there's a little bit of a difference in the wrestling. Is there a difference in the style of wrestling from when you're in the ring with somebody here to when you're in the ring with someone in Australia?
Definitely. Not so much in the technical, like the actual way the wrestling works, but more so in just the psychology of the matches. Before, when I started wrestling in 2011, and that was when Tennille first got signed, and all those guys we sort of spoke about had started doing these tours when I first started breaking in. So a lot of the information they found out was that like Australian wrestling is almost 10 years behind the independent scene in the States because your wrestling is so far forward in like people talk about like the indie style and it's that almost like no selling, everything's bigger and done in more combos and it's such a faster pace. And I know with the 3-month trips I did last time, my first match I did when I arrived on the tour compared to my last match, I'd completely changed everything I did because it was like I was wrestling like a decade behind. And it's by no fault of anyone here. We're trying to catch up, and it's just that it's a completely different style. It's much more fast forward. It's because there's so much more wrestling. The indie fans, especially in the Northeast, see so much of it. They've seen a tackle drop down hip toss a million times, whereas here in our country, because there's only 1 or 2 shows a weekend in each state, the fans aren't seeing it as much and as often. So that stuff still works, so people still do it, whereas it's just evolved much more, I found, in the States. So, yeah, trying to blend that together, I found was a real struggle at first, but definitely especially like the Northeast, the real hot territories, and I'm sure it'd be like that.
That used to be the difference between New England wrestling and New York, New Jersey wrestling. Is New York, New Jersey did that, what's now the indie style, a lot earlier than New England.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like that traditional... go in there and really tell the story and sell it a lot more than New York, New Jersey was to me. And I didn't appreciate that style the way I do now.
Yeah, that would make sense because New York, New Jersey, there's a show on every day.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, and you would see the same fans at every show every day. So when you're seeing so much of it, it gets old quick. So it's got to evolve and change and either get faster or you get different. And yeah, definitely, I think there's a change in styles and more so, yeah, it's just a much faster pace. And like you said, that when people sort of say that indie style, there's much less of that style here in Australia. And I think, yeah, trying to blend the two and make it work over here it's been a challenge. And because I want to put good matches on for our audience here and not, do too much for them. But you also want to have a match that if I put it on the internet, the indie fans of New York, New Jersey who have seen me and know me will hopefully see it and push it and be like, oh, look at this match. So it's been a bit of a challenge.
Now you think you're in the process of opening a school up too, huh?
Yeah. So just before the lockdown got us, at the start of this year, we opened the Relentless School of Pro Wrestling. It's an hour west of Melbourne. And just in that sort of area, there was no other wrestling school with a working ring within an hour of it. So we thought anyone that lives out in that area would be good. The wrestler that originally trained me, Jake Navarro, he has a gym. He's a personal trainer. He has his own gym, and he wanted a bigger place. And he said, "Look, if we get a bigger place, I need to make more rent money. But if we put a ring in it, my friend Philip, he wrestles as Fox. He had a ring, and he's like, we put the ring in it. The 3 of us can run a wrestling school like we've always wanted to. That way, we'll have a place to train close to home, and we can start a school." So yeah, we've been putting a lot of time into that. I was actually doing some match feedback for some of our students today because while in lockdown we can't physically train, we're still doing match breakdowns and promos, and yeah, I've been putting a lot of time into that. So hopefully, like I said before, we can build and train our guys up to that style. Then we can help run a promotion and run shows that hopefully can catch more eyes on our product.
That's awesome. I know a few of the schools up here right now because of this are struggling because the schools in Massachusetts, it's like a $500 fine if they get caught operating. So, I mean,
it's
$500
for us
that they can't afford.
Well, it's individually if you're caught doing something outside of a lockdown, which is leaving your house for a non-essential reason, it's a $1,600 fine. And if you're a business that's operating when you haven't been deemed essential, so a gym is one of those, it's a $20,000 fine for the business. The lockdown is very strict at the moment.
I couldn't imagine the backlash if they told us we can't leave our house.
Oh,
we got we got NFL and all NBA stuff going on, and now you're a pretty big footy fan, right? I think you're a Bulldogs fan. You're a Western
Bulldogs. That's it, mate. The mighty Western Bulldogs.
Are you guys are you guys playing? I mean, is there plans for this to start up to go on?
Yeah, they are. They are the only sport that is really they've played almost through the whole thing, but they've had to stop the season here and there. And at the moment, what they've done is my state, Victoria, has the worst breakout, whereas a lot of the other states, some of them are only having 2-3 cases a day. So some of them are doing really well. And what they've done is they've moved all the teams into 3 states. And they have hubs set up there, and those 3 teams and all the teams, just playing in 3 states. I think the NBA did the same thing. Everyone moved to Florida.
Yes, and they're locked down.
Yeah, so our AFL, Australian football, is doing the same thing. They're all in their own lockdown hubs, and they're still playing. But like in Perth, for instance, Western Australia is the state. They're only having 2 or 3 cases a day. They're almost out of lockdown. They're having 30,000 people go to their games a week. So they're allowed to have big gatherings, but only up to 30,000 at the moment.
Cool. So I'm a JP. This might be new to you, but I'm a footy fan too, right? So I it's just something since I was over in Japan, and
that's cool. Yeah.
It's one of those things. So I wanted to take the chance to ask you, since we had you, is Bailey Smith, like Baz. What's that for you guys? Yeah.
He's a legend. He's only 18, 19, and he is killing it at the moment. The big, long, flowing mullet. Just knowing that, there's been a big push in the last year or two for Australian football in America. They've been starting to broadcast it there and push it there a lot more.
NBC does a lot. NBC does a lot. Yes.
Yeah, and I know Pat McCarthy got onto it, and he's been loving it, and all the press from him has done a lot for the game here. At least getting it it's the same as our wrestling. We have an awesome sport in our football. Just nobody except for us sees it. So
I guess that's the other part of that too. Is there's when people talk about Australian, just laid back, cool, whatever. But the other part of that too is you guys play just as hard as you work. The work ethic comes just with the play. So when we talk about football and footy, the pads are cool and all this stuff, but when you talk about this kid being 18, 19 to be in the real deal, he's willing to punch somebody in the face to go.
Yeah, I played football my whole life. I think I played a game last year too. And I have 2 friends that play AFL, and they're I had one friend, he plays for the Giants in Sydney, and he was getting an injection in his shoulder before every game just to play through the pain. For a whole season. And it's a tough physical sport, but I think that's in our nature is very work really hard, and then really enjoy yourself on the back end. So we have a lot of people that I think it's just a lifestyle. We work really hard, and I noticed Melbourne's very fast paced. And I found one thing in being in the United States was everyone was not so much laid back, but everyone was just the pace of life was a lot calmer. And when I was in New York, I felt it was a bit more fast-paced. Everyone's moving around a bit more. But if you're in Melbourne in the middle of the day, it's very fast-paced. Everyone's in a rush to get somewhere. But then on the weekends, it's the opposite. Everyone's partying and drinking and laying back and watching sports. So I think it's a very work hard, party hard attitude I think we have.
It translate on the field too, right, with footy? I mean, it really does. It's especially with – do you feel like the team embodies that city, kind of like our sports do, Boston, JP and his Patriots just being dickheads. Anybody from Boston's a fucking prick. That's just how it goes.
I think that's more on the fans. I think the football players themselves are very work our ass off all season, and we have this thing called footy trip. So footy trip is a tradition, and at the end of the season, the team goes away for a week and drinks. And the rule is on footy trip, I've been on a ton of these, and if you survive them, you've done well. So we went to different states, we go to the beach states, or we went to Bali in our last one. You need to be at the bar at 9 a.m. with a beer in hand, and for every minute you're not in the bar past 9 a.m. with a beer in your hand, you need to scull or chug an entire beer for every minute you're late. And every day for the footy trip, you have a best on, which is an MVP. And then you have a worst on, which is your biggest loser or the worst performer for the day. and the worst performer of the day has to wear a pink singlet for the whole day. And that's the culture. That's it. It's like we've worked our asses off all season. Now we're going to enjoy it and spend the whole week drunk. You know.
Do you show up late just to pound a beer or two, though? I mean, not late, but like a minute or two just to pound a couple of beers.
You don't. We always say with those footy trips, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And if that happens to you, like, it'll get you early. So yeah, it's some of the boys would, but yeah, if you get MVP of a day on the footy trip, you've performed and done a bloody entertaining day. I'll tell you that. I remember one. You know, they have those temporary tattoos and stuff. We had them all over our faces and stuff.
looking like Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Yeah, but we have that, and we have another thing called Mad Monday, where it's like the last game of the year is on normally a Saturday, and then so you start drinking the second the game finishes on the Saturday. You drink all through to Sunday, which is Silly Sunday. And then on the Mad Monday, you all dress up in stupid costumes and you have another day drinking all day. So it's like a big bender, which is, again, the end of the season. We have Silly Sunday, Mad Monday, and then you have footy trip a couple of weeks later. So, yeah, that's just the footy mentality. They go balls to the wall all year. And like you said, he's 18, no pads. And then, yeah, they'll party and enjoy it afterwards. No worries.
When you're playing Aussie rules, like if you're not playing on the pro level, if you're playing for fun, not for fun, but you know.
But yeah, like at the local level, like I have.
Yeah, are you able to drink on game days, or is that strictly?
Yeah, okay. It's encouraged. The footy clubs. There's more money in local football than there is like local wrestling. Like the boys always laugh at the money I make wrestling. Like that, they get some of them. I have friends that play in my local town for my local football team. They get $1,000 a game. Wow. And they use it as a second income almost. And the football clubs survive off the beer money. So like my dad, all his friends, all the older blokes and the families of the local teams go and watch the local football, and they just drink like crazy. And the football clubs make their money off that. No. So just like a wrestling promotion, they make money on the gate, off the beer, and they have functions. So it'll be the game's on Saturday at 2:00, but Saturday night at the football club, they're having a dress-up party, or they're having a DJ party, or a raffle, or they have a comedian, and they have these big functions where it's really just about drinking.
That's cool. Now, what about gambling?
Me and my friends are talking about being in lockdown. We've got nothing to do. Our betting apps on our phone have been going crazy, betting on sports, betting on horses. And another thing, too, I've noticed in the United States, you guys, so we have these things like we have pubs, right? Like a bar. Yeah, a lot of pubs and clubs, they have pokies or poker machines, or they have them like in Atlantic City at the casino. You know, you pull the lever and ding, ding, ding. We have them in every local town at pubs. So some states here are allowed to do that, but I think most are not with the gambling. Yeah, or it's only on native land you have them. Is that correct?
Yes.
For the most part, yes.
We have them in every single town. So
that's pretty cool.
Yes, with the pokies, we call them the poker machines. The pokies, man.
In Montana, we have the same thing, but they're like Keno, reels, everything, but it's all digitized, and they're in every gas station.
It's exactly like digitized reels.
Yeah.
Like a normal.
We have Keno and lottery here, but
yeah, we have all that here too. But even like you'll finish your work on a Wednesday at 4:00. You'll go to the pub at 5. You'll see all the locals. You have a beer. You have a bet on the game that's on TV. You'll have like the Keno, like the numbers on the TV, and there'll be the real machines, the poker machines in another room. You go in there, play them for a bit. It's just, I don't know, it's part of the culture. Like, and that's one thing I found weird. I'm like, you guys don't have, like, your bars don't have pokey machines. No. Where they're like, no, they're only at the casinos. But here, they're in every pub, and people play them like crazy. Like, sometimes we wrestle in venues that have them. So before the show, I'll come, I'll set up. All right, we've got an hour to the show. I'm going to go play the poker machines for 20 minutes. I'll come back.
Now, we just picked up a new sponsor, and that's why I asked about that.
Awesome.
So I'm going to do a live read ad here for mybookie.com, where you can actually book on Aussie Rules football, along with all of the major sports here in the U.S. as well, and they have a little casino set up. Your first deposit, they double for you at mybookie.com. I don't have a promo code or anything. We're working on that with them, and this is going to be hopefully a long-running thing with them. It's a great site. Fair odds on the betting because it's gambling, but it's going to be fun, especially with the football season coming up. I'm looking forward to betting against the Steelers and betting on the Patriots.
I'm not betting on any football at all this year. I have not bet on any sports. I'll bet on horse races. I'll bet on I'll bet on a race all day long, but I refuse to bet on any sporting event in the States right now because it's so fucking skewed.
But you'll go to mybookie.com and bet on those ponies, right?
I fucking sure will.
Mybookie.com, they've got Aussie rules football too. I'll have to get on.
Yes. As you guys were talking about that, I was like, I got to look real quick because this will be a great spot.
That's perfect. Because, me and my friends, we all have a group chat. And in the group chat, we always what bets are we putting on today, boys? Who do we think's going to have more than 15 disposals or who's going to kick more than 2 goals? Yeah.
I'm not a huge gambler, but the only sport that I'll bet on, because it's the only one I'm really educated on, is NFL football, U.S. football.
Mm-hmm. You sort of need to know your stuff, don't you?
Yes. Because you got to know who everybody is, who's injured, who's not, who plays well in what climates. And
yeah, that's another thing too. Some of the boys get stitched up because they'll have a bet for a tall player to kick goals, but then it rains and then there's like a low-scoring game, and it's like, I didn't know it was raining.
Right.
Can we talk about JP? Can we talk about the fact that there's not only males that play this game? There's females over there as well. So let's just include that as well. I'm not. Really? I don't want to be something. Yes.
The on all levels.
I think. Sorry.
Is that on all levels?
Well, they've just started at a national level, like the top level, I guess. So it's almost like if they had NFL and NFLW, we have AFL and now AFLW as well. So yeah.
Those have to be. Who wins in a fight, the girls or the guys?
The girls. And another thing that's crazy about the girls, the girls are like more fierce than the men, and the reason is because a lot of these girls, because they didn't have junior football, junior Australian football for women, so they haven't played football for their entire lives growing up, so they're not used to protecting their bodies and getting used to the bumps and stuff without any of the padding and all that. So now when they play at such a top level and they're so fast, they run crashing in, they don't protect their bodies, and they just bang straight in, and they get injured, and they go at it harder because I think we're conditioned, the males, from playing Australian football from the age of 6, you get conditioned to how you're going to get bumped, so you're used to it protecting yourself, and you almost become more of a chicken, I guess, whereas the women, they just go for it.
It's right, because it becomes like almost muscle memory to react to that stuff.
Yeah, to protect and to brace, whereas they just they're at it because they haven't. Yeah, in generations that'll change in the next, because we have full junior women's football now.
No,
yeah.
Without getting too personal and giving too much information out?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, don't give me a number. Okay. How does the paydays in wrestling compare here in Australia? Are you able to get more here as sort of an attraction?
Yeah, so due to, I think having a following is so important. But in the regards to the United States, to America, to Australia, the Indies, I guess the paydays for someone of me it's very similar and pretty much on par. They're almost the same. The only difference is in Australia, the most you'll get is 2 bookings a week because there's not enough shows. Whereas if I don't know, when my last few weeks of the tour I did last year, I was wrestling 4 to 5 times a week. That's enough to make money and live on, and with merchandise. Whereas in Australia, doing it once a week, you're not gonna. Yeah, there's just not enough shows. But the pay is very similar and very on par on the independent level.
The thing that sort of one of the things that impressed me with you, along with your ability and that you have a look, that you actually had a table full of merchandise that people were buying at New England All-Star Wrestling, where I'd say for probably 80% of that crowd, it was probably their first time seeing you.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, and I think that's one of the things I sort of jumped on board early. When I first started wrestling, the promotion I was with locally here in Australia, no one had merchandise. It wasn't a thing. And I was like, I went and made some 8x10s, and then people started buying it. Then other wrestlers started doing it. And then I'm a graphic designer myself, so I'm very big on just having a professional look. And if you look, I remember we had some ex-WWE talent come out here for shows, and they had a merch table, and they were charging for photos and photo ops and 8x10s, and they had merchandise. And I was like, well, they're the big-time professional. And they always say, if you want to get somewhere, you need to act like you're already there.
Yeah.
So I was like, why am I not doing this? So I need to look professional, have professional merchandise, a logo, and and yeah, that's just something I've always strived for and felt was very important, and it's paid off.
Now, who would you call a mentor? I was looking you up today, and I saw you had a few trainers listed, one being Orlando Jordan. Is that true?
Yes, it is true, yeah.
How did that come about? Like, if you were out, was he in Australia?
He still lives here.
Oh, okay.
I think I've been wrestling for a year at this point, and he came out here for some of these shows. Some promoters brought out some international ex-WWE wrestlers, and it was really game changing, because this is another thing in the United States on the Indies. There's current like today, Brian Myers and Joey Janela are on two different major promotions, and they just wrestled for WrestlePro today. That happens every day for you guys.
Right.
Over here, you have to fly them out. And when I first started wrestling in the late 2008-ish, that didn't happen. No ex-WWE guys, no TV talent came out here to wrestle. It was all local Australians. And yeah, around 2012, a few promoters started bringing out some international talent, and they started doing seminars and stuff. And Orlando Jordan actually decided to move here, and he opened up a school. And the school only lasted, I think, 12 months. But yeah, I trained there with him, so he sort of retrained me a lot from the start. And he helped me a lot in that respect. Yeah.
Now, does that, having somebody that's had TV experience, do they teach you the TV stuff? Not just the TV way of wrestling, but like the cameras and that type of thing? Because I think that's so huge right now. If you want to get to that level,
it's so important. He was very big on that. He would set a hard camera up at training. So we could watch back, and he'd be like, look, watch this, and then watch WWE. And you notice why it looks different, because you're not wrestling for the camera. And with starting our school at the Relentless School of Pro Wrestling, we've been training like a lot of Australian guys when we were open and not in lockdown. And the one thing we noticed is no one knows how to work TV. And because no one out here is on TV. So unless you've been overseas, or it's all just for local shows. So yeah, Orlando was big on training us for that. And then going forward, as a lot of my experiences, and I said, you get a spot on Impact, like I did. I had one match. You want to get the most out of it. And then the next day I got a second match. So you want to, with those opportunities, you've got to be TV ready. And learning to work TV is like learning to wrestle is one thing, but learning to work TV is another whole thing. And yeah, it's very important.
How did the Impact match come about?
Again, so bringing out international talent. House of Hardcore toured Australia, and this is one of the things you've just got to do everything you can to do the right thing. So the people in charge of that, I was the promoter that was running those shows. I was already wrestling for their promotion, and then they were doing this House of Hardcore tour. On the tour, I offered to help and set up ring crew. I said, I just wanted, if there's an opportunity, sure, but if not, I just want to come help out, and I'll be there. And they're like, yep. During the day, we had a seminar with Bully Ray, Bubba Ray Dudley. And then after the seminar, after helping set up, they're like, hey, Tommy Dreamer remembers you from the last time he was out here. He likes your work, and they're going to put you in the main event with Willie Mack. I'm like, amazing. It was just an opportunity there. So I had that match. It was really cool, and Tommy was really impressed. And he's another person that Dreamer, I'd say, almost like a mentor. He's always, he's great. I'll email him matches. He gives me feedback. And so when I was coming out for this trip to the States this time, I emailed him before I came. I said, look, Tommy, I'm coming out. There's a chance to do some more House of Hardcore work or anything. I'd love the opportunity. I'm going to be there. And he's like, yep, take these 2 dates. You're booked. And so I rocked up at the show. And then at the time, there weren't Impact shows. They were House of Hardcore shows. And then in time, when it came to it, it was a joint show with Impact. And like, yep, this is going to be Impact. This is going to be on TV. You're having a match here, and then you're having a match tomorrow. So it just sort of, again, offering to help out at Ring Crew with a promoter here in Australia, that all sort of steamrolled into that.
So that led to a main event, which led to a House of Hardcore booking, which became an Impact Wrestling booking.
Yeah, and these are the things, and then people just, and I drum this into our students at the training school, like, you just be a good person and help out in any way, because you impress the right person at the right time, it can go a long way, and that just goes to show. But that's another thing too. Once that I got the opportunity to have a match on House of Hardcore, I had to be ready and then do a good job. And then you do the right thing and impress the right people again. It's just a continuous effect of, if you just do try and tick all the boxes, opportunities will come for you. And yeah, I was forever grateful for having that.
You don't want to burn a bridge either, but the best part about pro wrestling is if you do burn a bridge, 9 times out of 10, unless you like did something completely horrible and you're just an evil person, 9 times out of 10, if you show up the next show to help out and you shake the promoter's hand and say whatever, put everything at peace, you're going to be forgiven.
Yeah, and I think...
because you're showing up to help out. But you don't want to burn the bridge, so I don't want to advocate for that. But that's just how wrestling is. You show up, you help out, and things happen for you. It's going to open up a door.
Yeah, and just being humble too. Like, I know, like that opportunity was offered to a lot of guys. They said, hey, to a lot of us Australian wrestlers, they said, if anyone wants to come and help out, they're more than welcome to. We love the help. We're not saying that means there's a spot on the show, but if you want to come help out, we'd love it. And there was a lot of Australian wrestlers that were better than me that could have had that opportunity, but I don't know, for whatever reason, I don't know if they thought they were above doing ring crew or they just thought they were too good for that. But there's no one is above that, and it's just being humble and just trying to do the right thing. And when I went to the States for that tour, it was the same thing. My first day with WrestlePro, I'm just here to help, to train. I want to help. I want to be everywhere. Okay. So I helped set up the ring that day. And then the next day I'm like, oh, you guys are going to be at WrestleCon. Can I come and help vendor? I'll take the money or I'll take the photos. They're like, yeah, all right. If you want to come help. I went and helped all day. And then the next day, and then on the second day, Pat Buck was like, hey, thanks for helping. You've been a lot of help. We're going to give you a spot on the show tomorrow night. Then from that, they were like, you were really good. We're going to give you a spot on the next show. So it's, again, you just got to be humble and just do the right thing, and just, the more you can tick the right boxes, and it goes a long way.
That's like the story that I think every wrestler needs to hear, because like you said, there's a lot of people that are offered those opportunities and sort of scoff at it. So
that was exactly it. There was wrestlers that were better than me that could have had that, but they just didn't put themselves in the right position, I guess.
I think it's a common theme, JP, and I don't know what it is, why we always just happen to just, is it the quality of people? Like even Ace Austin that's in Impact talked about it when he was, even before his Impact opportunity, where if there was an open seat, like he was in it. Like when the Christ brothers were going, or if somebody was going, like he was getting an open seat, he was available. He talked to everybody. He said, hey, if you need whatever you need, and that turned into an opportunity on Impact, which turned into what it is now, where he's hanging out with FTR in Impact on a regular basis.
I don't know. Bob Evans, Brutal Bob Evans, who was a manager in ROH for a little while, he used to tour pretty well. And he would always throw it onto Facebook. Hey, I got an open seat in my car. There's no promise. You have to drive and you have to chip in for gas. There's no promise of a spot, but you'll get into the seminar he ran, and you'd get into the show at least.
Mm-hmm.
And, you don't get the opportunity if you don't take that seat in the car.
That's exactly it. And Ace Austin's another guy that I met in 2016 on my first trip, and he was just doing the same shows I was, We were doing these shows in front of nobody. I wrestled him in front of, I think, like 8 people. But then I came back in 2019, I wrestled him again in front of, I think, 250 people. And by that point, he's doing Impact shows, and then he got a contract. And so, it's, again, he was doing the right things. And you just, I tell guys too, I'm like, hey, there's a show. It's 3 hours away. We're driving. If you want to come, you can come, help drive, help chip in for petrol and fuel. And we're not saying there's a spot, but you can come and help, and then that might lead to a spot. And when I was at WrestlePro for the US tour last year, I needed someone to drive me because I didn't have a car or a license in America. So I would tell the WrestlePro guys, hey, I have a booking here. It's 2 hours away. If someone drives me, I'll pay the gas, and I'll try and get you on the show. And there was a young kid. His name's he wrestles as Jay Cruz, and he drove me to a lot of shows. And I think he drove me to 7 shows, and I got him onto 6 of them. And
nice.
So, and now the thing now is I'm not there anymore, but he's still wrestling for these promotions. So him helping me and just taking the opportunity got him bookings, and is still paying off for him now.
Because a lot of it's hard to get exposure on the independent level unless you're into one of the sort of elite, like WrestlePro, I think, is sort of an elite independent group, and I don't think they get the exposure they deserve. But like a Beyond Wrestling and something like that has like the weekly IWTV stuff, like unless
Yes.
you're on one of those, you don't really get the exposure. So showing up to a show and talking to the promoter and maybe one of the other boys there recognizes you and say, "Hey, this kid's a good hand," and boom.
Mm-hmm.
And that was
JXT,
exactly isn't that kind of where you're headed at with Mayhem Pro? Isn't that kind of what the ultimate idea and I mean result of this is in Melbourne with Mayhem Pro is when it's time again is to kick this up and be able to show like the talent that people are picking from Australia and bring it to the stage. You can actually showcase that in Australia online.
That's exactly it. So when I went to Beyond Wrestling the first time, I was like, this is amazing. This is exactly what we need to do back home. And with Mayhem Pro, that's exactly what we're going to try and do is like Beyond has their, the weekly IWTV shows. And I even said, like I've told our guys, like our goal is I want to do a YouTube show weekly and to try and build our name. So for us, it's not about making money. We just want people to see it. So if it's free on YouTube, people can see it for free in small sizes, but also long term with our full shows. I would love to get on IWTV because look at the amazing things Beyond Wrestling's been able to do. So yeah, that is exactly what we want here with Mayhem Pro. And then even, sorry, you going to say?
Beyond started on YouTube as well. So, I mean.
Yeah, that's it. That is the model. That is the base model. But Beyond was something I set as a goal too. And I know, like I was hanging out with Joey Janela a lot and he was awesome. He helped me more. He had he didn't need to help me at all. And he just was like, hey, if you want this, I'll give you a hand. He's like, hey, I'm going to Beyond. I have no one to ride with. Do you want to come with me? I was like, yes, please. I take this 4.5 trip in, up to Beyond Wrestling with Joey. We get up there. I meet Drew, the promoter. I meet everyone there. And Joey's like, hey, it's my friend Josh. He's from Australia. He'd love to get a spot on Beyond. And Drew's like, yeah, I might be able to get him in a couple of weeks. So that led to being on Beyond Wrestling, a couple of weeks later. And I had a match with Solo Darling. Drew put me in a great match. And I'm, forever grateful he put me in the match. He put the match on YouTube later. It has over 1 million views. And that all came from Joey just saying, hey, do you want to come with me on this trip?
That's awesome. And so, I mean,
what did you think about working with Solo? How fun was that?
She's amazing. I love her. She's a legend. I got to work her a couple of times on that trip, which was really cool and really fun. Yeah, and she's so good and technically gifted. Like there was like some of the things she can do is awesome. So we could really have a nice, intricate match and do some really cool spots. And if you go back and watch it on YouTube now, I think we told a really cool story. And yeah, she brings it too. Like I said, but she kicked the shit out of me. I'm like, this is awesome. She brings it.
How do you feel with the intergender stuff?
I love it, and I think I always say the best thing about professional wrestling is it's not a real sport. It is the best thing by a mile. I can wrestle hungover, and also with regards to this, like we're all wrestlers, so gender doesn't matter. It doesn't. You could be any gender. It's irrelevant. You're a wrestler, and it's almost like a computer game. You just pick your character. Mortal Kombat, women, female, male, female, doesn't matter. You just pick your character. It's the same professional wrestling. We are characters and we are performers and athletes. So whether it's a male or female shouldn't matter at all. We can just have the same match, which it's exactly how I approach those matches. And my intergender matches, I honestly think have been some of the best matches I've had.
I think, JP, I know you don't like them as much. I shouldn't say that. You prefer them less than you prefer other matches.
Right. And my thing is, if I watch an intergender match and Solo is pretty good at this, I have to forget that it's a male versus female.
Yes. I think that's important. Yeah. And I think that's again, with Australia being behind the times, our generation of people is still very not forward thinking. So it's like, oh, that's a man and a woman. They can't be in the ring together. Whereas we have very little intergender wrestling here, and I've been pushing for it hard. And when we bring back Mayhem Pro, that's something I'm so strong on. Our first live show we did, the main event, it was main evented by a woman, and then our second live show was again main evented with a woman going over both times because I wanted to prove that this is such an important thing. You might know her, Kelly Ann. She wrestles for Ring of Honor.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, I was like, she has the biggest following. She is one of the best wrestlers we have. She's wrestled in Canada. She was trained by Lance Storm. She's wrestled in Mexico, the United States, done a lot of Shimmer work, and in Australia. I'm like, she's the biggest name we have by a mile. She should be our biggest star. So it made sense to build the shows around her. And then the fact that showing this empowering woman, kicking all the guys' asses and being the biggest name, it's like, and the draw. And even to little things, like I said to her, I said after the show, how if you have a show, the babyface goes over and they'll cut a promo thanking the fans, see you next time. I was like, can you cut that? I'm like, have you ever had a chance to cut that promo? She's like, never. She goes, I never have done that. I'm like, awesome. She got an opportunity to do that. It was only something small, but just the fact that, we can do these things out here for the first time, like more power to it.
Well, I guess what excites me about this more than anything else, man, when you're able to do it, is that if Matt Farmer can do it with help in Defy Wrestling in the Pacific Northwest and make that as successful as he did with like Swerve going to NXT and then himself following all along the way to MLW, man, the internet is the way to go, especially if you can get what you need to get on YouTube and get the views. And I know you say like money isn't the option, but in the end, like the end game, I think with the amount of talent and exposure that you'll get through what you're doing, if it's marketed like you're saying through IWTV or anybody like that, especially with guys like me, that's all I do is literally watch pro.
Yeah.
That's all I do. Is just I'm looking for the next big dude. Like I'm just looking for the next guy that has not only the look and stuff, but like you're talking about, like you have, and Ace Austin has, and Solo and Shaza and all these people that we talk to is like, I'm getting in the car, I'm gonna set up the ring, I'm gonna sit there, and I'm gonna be whatever I need to be, and if I get a shot, I'm gonna make it every shot I can take worth it.
Yeah, it's that drive, isn't it?
Now, do you have a favorite match that you've had or a favorite opponent? Like, is there somebody who, when you get in the ring with, you two are just going to have chemistry and it's going to be magic?
I think when people say favorite match, like you always think like, what can you show them? I show them that match with Solo, darling, the Beyond Wrestling match. One, because I'm proud of the platform it's on, and I think if you've never seen me wrestle before, if I'm at work and my work colleagues like, oh, you're a wrestler, can you show me something? I'll show them that.
Okay.
Because if I just show them, here's me and someone in a local hall in Australia doing some clotheslines and stuff, but then they see, me giving a girl a top rope Hurricane Rana, and the fans are up against the ring smacking the mat, and like it just has such a vibe and it's such a strong thing. It's like, wow, that's what you do. And it's like that chick is she's kicking the shit out of you. I'm like, yeah, that's what I do on the weekends. Yeah, I think that just has such a hook. And I think that is, and not that too. And I'm very proud of that match. And I just think it's very clean. It's very good. And we do some cool things. So yeah, overall, I was like, yeah, that's the match I show people. But then too, like my favorite match, I guess Where You Learn is probably my favorite. Like, that's the one that springs to mind. Wrestling Big AC at Impact for that House of Hardcore show in the ECW arena, I think was just, there was so many like goals and bucket list things in that one match. Was so cool. And then again, when I was back here in Australia, I wrestled Will Ospreay, and that was a huge learning curve for me.
That's going to be pretty cool. That's
that's on YouTube too. If you check it out, if you just search Will Ospreay v JXT, it happened for a promotion that's out in the country here, Gippsland Pro Wrestling, and it was a great opportunity. And I don't necessarily show people that match because I'm not so much not proud of it, but it's more though I was so out of my element, and it was the Japanese style that Will does was so different to what I was used to, and even right before the match I was really struggling to comprehend it, and not until after it was I like, wow, I was so out of my league in that match, but I learned so much from it. So that was probably another one that sticks out to me.
Was it hard to trust yourself and your abilities?
Not so much my abilities. It was more so just the style, like just the way everything was structured. So naturally for me in a match, if I would do this move and then there was a pinfall or a hold, what would I naturally go to next? So then it becomes easy. It becomes like muscle memory, second nature. But because Will, and I think it was very, very Japanese style, the way we did it, I was like, what would come next was so different. That was tripping me up so much. So like ability wise, like physically, I had no issues at all. And I thought we were very clean in the ring. And he is so awesome to work with. Like I don't think you can have a bad match with him. But yeah, it was just the style and structure of the match was so different to what I was used to. Just, knowing to what to go to next or what would come after that. Or, it was very hard to get my head around and taught me so much. Especially, like, fighting spirit is real. And I felt it then. I was like, wow, I understand what that means now. It's a whole different style for sure.
Man, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. Like, we've almost already been an hour. I want to make sure that you get to plug as much as you need to plug as far as social media, where people can find you under Twitter, where people can find the Academy if they want to look, especially in the Australia area, because we do have people, believe it or not, that do listen to the podcast in
awesome. No,
Australia, sure. New Zealand over there. So, yeah, I mean, who knows? You get one kid that can make a difference, man. Just plug your stuff if you can, please.
That's exactly it. So I'm at JXT_official, 3 letters, JXT. On Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Our wrestling school, which is here in Melbourne, it's the Relentless School of Pro Wrestling. Same thing, look them up, Relentless School of Pro Wrestling. They're on all my social medias. And our promotion that we will relaunch once we get out of lockdown and can physically touch people in a wrestling ring will be at Mayhem Pro. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Mayhem Pro, Relentless School of Pro Wrestling, and JXT_official. But I'd like to thank you guys. This has been one of the best interviews I've ever done. You get a lot of these podcasts and, they can be quite boring. But you guys, I knew this, obviously, speaking to you guys before. But, thank you again. It's been awesome.
Oh, thank you, Jay. Appreciate it.
We really appreciate it, too, because we know everybody out there and their mother that has a computer and a microphone and a camera can do this, but it takes time, effort, and energy and understanding what it takes to do what you do. And you're obviously a professional at your craft, and we really appreciate what you do, man.
No, thank you guys, because like I said, while I'm here, no one can talk about me, get no buzz, but you guys are in the market I want to break into, and it helps me so much more than it probably helps you guys. So again, can't thank you enough.
No problem. You let us know, and we'll do everything we can for you. We'll put you.
No, for sure. When we get things up and running, I'll tag you guys and I'll send them all through, and hopefully, you help me, I'll help you. That's how it all works, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah. Hey, stay with us here real quick, JXT. We're gonna sign off here. TIW Mafia. I want to thank on behalf of JP and JXT. Follow us, 3 Irish Boys. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the interview.